Eric Swalwell's big moment blew up in his face. Check it out.
And not one of you said that was inappropriate. I was stunned that you call yourself a pro-police party and you bring a witness before us that says, F cops. I don't believe in that.
The California representative was trying to deliver a gotcha moment. He even went after MTG's antics.
But Mr. Johnson, will you disavow your colleague, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who tweets out and makes money off of a defund the FBI movement? Because they're police too.
Okay, that's a fair point. But when it was Andy Bigg's turn to speak, he turned the entire thing upside down.
We have a video to play. I think this will provide some visual summation. Please.
That's why today we're covering it all. So if you're an independent thinker, hit that subscribe button and let's kick things off with Andy's video.
And the police has to happen. We need to defund the police.
Mayor Eric Garcetti saying, take some of the money from policing, about $150 million.
I applaud Eric Garcetti for doing what he's done.
But we need to completely dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department.
It is outdated, it is wrong-headed thinking to think that the only way you're going to get communities to be safe is to put more police officers on the street.
So yes, defund your butts. Defund you.
Yes, I support the reallocation of resources from NYPD.
We will be moving funding from the NYPD.
Yes, I support the defund movement. I'm for responsible reallocation of resources.
And defund the police.
I think you do all those other things, you don't need all the money that's going to the police department. So yeah, I mean, the spirit of it, I do support that.
Can you believe that the so-called progressive wing of the Democrats, which made it less than 10% of the entire party back in 2021, steered them toward one of the most radical positions in recent memory? After the George Floyd incident, that small faction set the tone nationally, demanding police budget cuts and framing it as the only moral stance. But here's what's interesting. Not everyone who jumped on the defund bandwagon actually followed through. For instance, Michigan's governor, Gretchen Whitmer, who we just saw calling for cuts to police budgets, didn't implement such a policy. Across Michigan, despite massive protests and relentless pressure, many cities quietly did the opposite of what was promised. Police budgets increased. Departments that were supposedly on the chopping block ended up receiving more funding just a year later. But there are way more politicians who called for it. So let's get back to Representative Andy's video.
Yeah, and a lot of us were asked if we could imagine a future without police back in 2017 when we were running for office. And I answered yes to that question.
We are going to reduce funding in the police department and redirect that money.
We propose to redirect over $7 million from the police bureau.
The police department here in Minneapolis needs to be dismantled, and we need to start anew.
In some necessary cases, completely dismantling those police forces.
Police departments are taking a sizable amount of the budget of a lot of municipalities and other entities. We need to look at those budgets, pull some of the money back.
But we talk about defunding the police, defunding the Pentagon.
My push is that we defund our police departments.
Defunding police means defunding police. If these reports are accurate, then these proposed cuts to the NYPD budget are a disingenuous illusion. This is not a victory. The freshman Democrat adding, the fight to defund policing will continue.
Spoiler alert, it didn't continue. In fact, it was such a terrible proposal that many of the politicians we just saw are no longer in office. And we should be grateful for that. Now, to be fair, their push for defunding the police wasn't the only thing that cost them re-elections. But if that's the type of policy one proposes, you can only imagine what other terrible ideas they have in stock. And it's a matter of common sense. I mean, fewer officers on the street means more crime. And that's exactly what happened. Violent crime surged to levels cities hadn't seen in decades, leaving communities terrified and desperate for change. By the time the 2022 midterms rolled around, even major Democrat leaders were walking it all back, and they suddenly distanced themselves from the movement, acting as though they'd never supported it in the first place.
The other thing that's weighing on people right now is rising crime. And there appear to be some divisions among Democrats about how to handle it. Your colleague, Karen Bass, running for mayor of Los Angeles, is trying to increase the police force in L.A. Cori Bush, Congresswoman from Missouri, is saying it's time to defund the police. She's sticking by that. You're the speaker. How do you think Democrats should address rising crime?
Well, with all the respect in the world for Cori Bush, that is not the position of the Democratic Party. community safety, to protect and defend in every way, is our oath of office. And I have sympathy. We're all concerned about mistreatment of people, and that's why Karen Bass had the Justice in Policing Act, and we would hope to get some of that done, whether it's no-knock or chokehold or some of those issues, even if we can't get it all done. But make no mistake, community safety is our responsibility.
You know things are upside down when even Nancy Pelosi is the one saying it. If the conversation were strictly about reforms, like better training, more oversight, and ensuring accountability, that would be reasonable. Nobody argues against making sure law enforcement operates responsibly. But that wasn't the tone during the defund craze. Instead, politicians took an extreme stance, fully aware that it could push cities towards anarchy. That's what happens when decisions are made in the heat of outrage rather than long-term thinking. Anger drives the debate. Radical slogans dominate headlines, and anyone who questions the movement is painted as the enemy. Meanwhile, the communities supposedly being helped end up paying the price. Even Obama had to take a more balanced approach on the movement, sharing his thoughts in a rare interview that surprisingly flew under the radar at the time.
If you believe, as I do, that we should be able to reform the criminal justice system so that it's not biased and treats everybody fairly, I guess you can use a snappy slogan like defund the police, but you know you've lost a big audience the minute you say it, which makes it a lot less likely that you're actually going to get the changes you want done. But if you instead say, let's reform the police department so that everybody's being treated fairly, divert young people from getting into crime, and if there's a homeless guy, maybe we send a mental health worker there instead of an armed unit that could end up resulting in a tragedy. Suddenly, a whole bunch of folks who might not otherwise listen to you are listening to you. So the key is deciding, do you want to actually get something done, or do you want to feel good among the people you already agree with? And if you want to get something done in a democracy, in a country as big and diverse as ours, then you've got to be able to meet people where they are.
Now, just a reminder, he served 2 full terms, but he didn't do much when it came to reforming the criminal justice system, as he proposed here. But that's Obama for you. And I think this clip perfectly captures why he was so popular back in the day. He has a way of talking for a full minute, sounding thoughtful and deliberate, while never committing to a clear stance. It was balanced enough to appeal to moderates, but vague enough to avoid alienating anyone. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on this story. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe. And remember, keep on thinking.